the welcome?
Yes.
Okay, well, let me start over then and say welcome, everybody. We'll be recording this session, so if you don't want to be recorded, be aware that the session will be recorded, even though the chit chat up front and any chit chat on the back end is not recorded. So let me just say welcome. We welcome you to our congregation of New Thought believers. We are not here by accident. We're each part of the divine source energy that manifests unity on the Eastern Shore here and now. We celebrate the gift of life and our unity with all others, for we all are one. We bless and embrace people of every race, culture, lifestyle, and creed. We affirm that the one source, as light and love, expresses equally in every life. We give thanks to the presence of God within each of us for our ever increasing acceptance and expression of the divine truth. And now we will continue with the service by repeating together our first positive affirmation. We lovingly and gratefully acknowledge the presence of the divine in our midst. And because we are a purpose-led church, we'll repeat together our purpose statement also on the screen. Our purpose is to foster a new level of spiritual awareness through worship and fellowship, and to lift one another to a Christ-like maturity. And now we're going to enjoy a song, Okay in the End. Thank you, Armand and Angelina. I love that song. It's so perfect for today. Next, we're going to acknowledge the spiritual power for this month, which is life, as you can see on that vibrant red banner. So let's all just take a big, deep breath and inhale life. And now we will repeat together our affirmations coming up on your screen. The first one, together. There is only one presence and one power in my life and in the universe, God, the good, omnipotent. Together, we know God blesses all special intentions in our prayer box and that God's perfect plan is in action. And lastly, we are alive, alert, awake, joyous, and enthusiastic about life. And now we're going to have the daily word, which today is release. I take the best and leave the rest. This one is so true for me, and I hope that you find some resonance in what I'm about to read. My experiences of this past year have brought me gifts of insight, new perspectives, many chances to grow and stretch myself. Perhaps the opportunity to develop a skill that serves me in my work or brings greater enjoyment to my leisure time. Some experiences have been painful or difficult. These too have offered their gifts. I accept all that has come my way. With gratitude, I bless it all. I find the gifts and release what no longer serves my growth. Assured that God is my dependable source, I release any pain of a financial setback. In the joy of restored health, I release any memory of illness. Grateful for all modes of connection, I release any pain of loneliness. I move forward feeling lighter, cleansed, and renewed for my journey forward. And from Isaiah 43:18, do not remember the former things or consider the things of old. And now I'd like to introduce today's speaker, the Reverend Anne Murphy, who is going to lead us in a what I'm sure will be a memorable service.
Good morning. I don't see myself. Am I up there? Can you see me? I just have an A.
Yeah. Oh,
You can see. Oh, wait a minute. Here.
no, we can.
Okay, there I am.
Oh,
Okay.
there you are. Okay.
Good morning. Yeah. Well, thank you again for inviting me. It's been so much fun for me to be doing the Christmas story series. And actually today, in a way, is going to be a continuation of our Christmas story. So we've spent the last 3 weeks taking our trip to Bethlehem. We've looked deep within ourselves and discovered that the characters in the Christmas story, we can look at them metaphysically as aspects of ourselves and our own evolving consciousness. So we discovered that we had the presence of Mary within us as our divine feminine, and Mary also represents love. And Mary also represents being receptive to the message of spirit. And of course, the message of spirit are represented metaphysically as angels. And we also have within ourselves the Joseph consciousness, and Joseph represents the divine masculine, and it is intellect and strength and protection. And we learned that we needed both the masculine and the feminine, the anima and the animus within each and every one of us to bring forth our Christ. And our intellect needs to move down into our heart, represented by Mary, to bring forth wisdom. Now, we also learned from the story that Jesus was born during the time when Herod was the ruling king in Bethlehem, in the area where Jesus was born. And Herod represents our adverse ego, the part of us that wants to seek power, the part of us that wants to make others wrong, the part of us that is unforgiving and judgmental and resentful. And we all have that Herod within us, and it's really not anything evil, but what it needs some direction. It needs to have the presence of love. And the birth of Jesus took place in Bethlehem. Bethlehem was ruled in ancient times by King David, and David represents love, a consciousness ruled by love. So for our birth of our Christ, we need to have a consciousness ruled by love. And our goal today is to bring forth that consciousness ruled by love. So today we're going to learn some tools. We're going to discover some tools to help us be a more effective expression of the Christ in our world. So often in the scriptures, and we ourselves, we talk about ourselves as being the children of God, and which we are. And there's many aspects of being a child that we really want to maintain. We would like to have a consciousness that does not judge by appearances, that sees the world through the eyes of innocence, and that is open and teachable. Yet I believe that we are called to be much more than a child of God. We are called to be masters in the consciousness of love, just as Jesus was. So today we're going to do our burning bowl service, and that's going to help us to eliminate those aspects of ourselves that are not expressing the Christ of our nature. So I'm going to see if I can get my screen share up. So that was our journey to Bethlehem. that we had Mary and Joseph journeying to Bethlehem. Of course, the love and the intellect combining to be wisdom, and riding on the donkey, rising above our human tendencies, and having the Christ consciousness lead. But we do have sometimes some habits in our life that impede us from really being a complete expression of the Christ in our world. And Charles Fillmore says in Revealing Word that he talks about being the chosen of God, that God has chosen each of us as a medium for the expression of himself as love, life, wisdom, abundance, health, and so forth. And Charles Fillmore is Unity's co-founder. So I heard a story about a woman who was going shopping, and she needed to feed a large group of people, and she really wanted to buy a large turkey. So she went to the butcher department, and she didn't see any really large turkeys. So she went to the butcher and she said, "Don't they grow turkeys any bigger than this?" And the butcher looked at her and said, "Ma'am, those turkeys can't grow. They're all dead." So that's really silly. But what the little story teaches me is we've allowed parts of ourselves to die or become frozen, or we've forgotten really who and what we are. And some of those things are, we've forgotten our dreams. We've allowed our natural curiosity to become frozen. We've closed and hardened our hearts through unforgiveness and resentments. We've closed our mind and we've held on to old beliefs. Perhaps we've conformed to society, to old religious dogma or family beliefs. We've limited our own self-concepts, and we've gotten caught up in negative thinking. Now, there's another story about a man who was really seeking spiritual enlightenment, and he heard about a guru, a master teacher, who lived in the Himalayas of Tibet. And so he arranged to fly over to Asia and took a long journey to discover this teacher that was going to assist him with enlightenment. And so he arrived at his destination and he found his teacher just in a little tiny hut up in the mountains in Tibet. And the little man was dressed in the Buddhist garb with his white robes, and he invited him in and invited him to have tea. And he set out an elaborate tea service, and he began pouring the tea. And the cup was full, and the cup was overflowing. The water was flowing onto the tray, and the water was flowing onto the floor and onto the ground. So the man says, "Stop, stop, it's full, it's full." And the teacher said to him, "Yes, and so are you. You're full of old beliefs, old concepts, old dogma, and what you need to do is to empty out." So we discover from these two stories that there are thoughts, ideas, and habits in our life that block our good, that block us from fully expressing that Christ consciousness, to develop that Christ that we awakened on Christmas. So we need to empty out beliefs that our age, our financial situation, or physical limitations can hold us back from our good. We need to empty out old ideas, beliefs, and concepts that no longer serve us. And when we release, we can again be fully alive and unfrozen in the truth of who and what we are. Now, I have a story, and I don't really remember where I read the story, but the story stayed with me for a long time, and it probably was in one of those Chicken Soup for the Soul books. And it's about a little girl, and her name was Stacy, and she was born missing her left arm just below the elbow. And when she was born, she came into a family that there were two other little girls, and she was the third child. And the doctors told her mother not to treat her any differently than the other girls. And Stacy used to protest sometimes that she couldn't do what her sisters did. But when she would protest, her mother would say, get yourself into the kitchen and peel those potatoes, or get yourself into the kitchen and wash those dishes. And she learned to do it herself. And when she was in about the 3rd grade, she became really skilled at running and jumping, and she would compete with all the other children, just like she didn't have any handicap at all. But one day, the gym teacher had them go outside, and she asked each of the children to move across the monkey bars. And when it was Stacy's turn, of course, she was unable to do it, and she fell onto the ground, and all of the children laughed at her. Well, she came home from school that day crying to her mother, and so her mother immediately took her right back to that playground, and together they learned how Stacy could pull herself up so high, and she could just hook the part of her elbow that she had left and use her other hand, and she learned to skillfully move all the way across that monkey bar. The encouragement that Stacy's mother gave her allowed her inner spirit to shine out into the world in so many ways, giving encouragement to those around her. So that's how it works for us. As we release our blocks, our light shines and we can encourage others. So the human being is part of the whole called the universe, part limited in time and space. We experience ourselves, our thoughts and our feelings is separated from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of consciousness. The striving to free ourselves from this delusion is the one issue of religion, to nourish the delusion, but to try to overcome it. It is a way to reach the attainable measure of peace of mind. And that's a quote from Albert Einstein. So today we're going to be doing a burning bowl service. And so I hope that everyone has 2 pieces of paper. And as I was looking around the internet and seeing how my colleagues were doing this Zoom burning bowl service, I got a lot of ideas. And perhaps if you have a candle present and a bowl and just some paper, we can use that. If you really, one of my friends said he was asking everyone to bring a little piece of toilet paper and having them write what they need to release on the toilet paper and to flush it down the toilet. So that's one idea that you could use. And if you have a fireplace nearby, that would be a good place to burn. So we think of fire and we know that it represents light for us. It also represents cleansing, that as we burn, that the focus, what is burned releases itself into a new energy that transforms. So in a way, it's what in unity we call a denial. We're going to release what is not working for us. And we don't deny the presence of this thing in reality, but we deny the power that it has over us, the power that it has to in any way decrease the amount of light that we can bring into the world, or our Christ consciousness. And that we can also affirm. So after we do the burning bowl, we're going to write a letter to our higher self, to our God presence, to God, whatever way you seek to look at it. And that is to affirm that I am free to live my life to my full potential. So if you have your paper and your pencil, I'm going to be leading us in a little bit of meditation. But before we do that, I would also, as I was preparing this, I think all of us are so ready for 2020 to end. But as I was thinking about that, I was thinking that, this is a quote from Rumi. This is what we're going to remember as we do our burning bowl. First of all, this is that you are a light more brilliant than the sun when you do not block your brilliance. You are the divine unfolding in this world. And Rumi wrote, your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. So that is what we're going to be seeking today. And it also requires for us to be bold and honest and brave and courageous, to truly look deep within ourselves and discover what is blocking us from being that beautiful, immense light. And this is another affirmation, that we will be, create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit in me. O pure heart may have hardened, yet it is still filled with the splendor of the divine. So as I was mentioning, as I was thinking about 2020, we're all so anxious for it to come to an end. And it's been a very, very challenging year for everyone, We've had, of course, the pandemic, which has affected our lifestyle. We never had any comprehension of even what a pandemic really was. None of us have ever experienced it. The closest thing I can remember is the polio scare when I was a little girl, and remember seeing friends who were afflicted with polio, and some of the restrictions that we had, that we weren't able to go to swimming pools, is probably the only thing I really remember. But everyone has been affected by the pandemic. We've had the elections, which caused a lot of divisiveness, and even within families, some hard feelings. We've had racial strife, and you name it. It's been a very, very challenging year. But I would like us to spend some time in the silence as we think about 2020, and think of some gratitude that we also have for this year. So I'm just going to have us spend just a few moments in the silence, and then I'll share with you some of the things that I'm really grateful for. Well, I would like to say that I'm especially grateful after experiencing this 2020 and not being able to attend church and come together for the potlucks and holding hands and singing the peace song together, that I'm so very grateful for the leadership of this spiritual community, the Unity of the Eastern Shore, that they've made the effort to allow us to become connected. They moved out of their comfort level and learned to do Zoom church, and made the effort to allow us to come together in this way and to experience connection. And we know in truth that we're not together physically, but we know in truth and spiritually, we are always connected. We're always connected in oneness, regardless of time or space or distance. So thank you to the board of Unity of the Eastern Shore, and thank you especially to Pam Rainey, who's been our technical director. I think that I've appreciated the frontline workers that have to be out there all the time exposing themselves, even the grocery store clerks and the retail clerks they are considered essential workers. And of course, the hospitals and the nurses and the physicians who I have in my own family. And I think most people have a new respect for teachers. I have 2 teachers myself. My own children are teachers, and I know the extraordinary effort that they go through to bring learning to our children. And even down here, I know some of our schools are open, but teachers also have to take a lot of precautions to keep a healthy environment. So I think when we look back on 2020, I don't think we're maybe 4 or 5 years ahead of us. We don't really always appreciate things when we're going through them. We're going to remember some of these appreciations that deeper appreciations for being able to come back together when we are able to come back together. And there is a quote by Walt Disney, and he says, "All the adversity I've had in my life, all the troubles and obstacles have strengthened me. You may not realize it when it happens, but a kick in the teeth may be the best thing in the world for you." So maybe we'll learn from this pandemic and this difficult time. We all welcome 2021, and we have a lot of hopes and dreams and all, but let's just also appreciate 2020 and the lessons it has given us. And so we will go on to our burning bowl. And so I'd like to read an old poem by a Unity minister, and his name is Frank Whitney, and he was the very first publisher of the Daily Word. And he wrote this poem many years ago, "Begin Again." "It matters not what may befall, beyond all else, I hear the call. You can begin again. My courage rises when I hear God's voice allay the thought of fear. And when God whispers gently near, you can begin again." So today we can have a new beginning because we have a power within us that is greater than any habit, person, or thing. We can stay centered in the assurance that God dwells within us. No negative habit or emotion is a match for the loving, peace-giving presence of God within. And we know that God's message to each of us, you can begin again. You can begin again. So let's just take a deep breath. And I'm going to just go through a little meditation. If it's comfortable for you, you can close your outer eyes, or you can just focus on my little image of the burning bowl. Let's just think, what seems to be blocking you? Is it a belief in limitation? Negative self-esteem? Habits, patterns, or self-talk that are negative? Well, the burning bowl is an opportunity in which we release the past and lay hold of our good in the now and for the future. We can achieve this release by denying any error thoughts and behavior patterns we wish to eliminate. And we lay hold of our good by making firm the pattern of true thoughts that will bring forth the good we desire to manifest. The process of releasing begins with forgiveness of all injury, both real and imagined. We recall the truth that we are spirit, perfect, holy, and harmonious, and that nothing can hurt us or make us sick or afraid, for spirit is God, and God can never be sick or hurt or afraid. We take some quiet time now to call to mind all those persons or incidents in our lives which need to be forgiven. In Matthew, Jesus says, how often should I forgive? Jesus was asked, how often should I forgive? As many as 7 times? And Jesus answers, no, not 7, but I tell you, 77 times. So our forgiveness is a process that needs to be continually happening over and over and over again. Let us rest in the silence. And we recognize that sometimes we have an intensity of emotions when we bring these memories into our consciousness. And as we're forgiving, we do not condemn ourselves for the way we feel. But we do choose to change our mind. We're not those frozen turkeys. We're here to grow and move out of our comfort zone. And we need to change our injured feelings, feelings of harmony, love, and peace. We know we have the power to change. God gave us that power. We know that we need to learn to forgive and begin the learning process by becoming willing. What blocks us from being the divine humans we are called to be? And I heard of a condition called psychosclerosis, in which all wounds, old habits, and old resentments and forgiveness are frozen into our consciousness, leading to a hardening of the spirit and blockages to our full expression of the Christ consciousness. So we need to release that psychosclerosis. The process of releasing begins with forgiveness of all injury, both real and imagined. We recall the truth that we are spirit, perfect, holy, and harmonious, and that nothing can hurt us or make us sick or afraid, for spirit is God, and God can never be sick or afraid. And now let's just take some more time in the silence, recalling all of those things that need to be released, people that need to be forgiven, situations in our life that are not serving us. And so now it's your opportunity to write down the thoughts or the habits or the patterns that you wish to release. Just write a word or a short phrase which describes or perhaps symbolizes in a way meaningful only to you the condition from which you desire release. When you are ready, and if you have a candle available and a bowl, or we can visualize it, we can use the power of our imagination and imagine the fire transforming. And the fire transforms the energy contained in the paper into heat energy. So your denial releases that seeming power this condition has in your life and transforms that power into a purging fire of the spirit. We can use this virtual candle if it works for you. We do have the power of imagination. Do that. We can affirm this affirmation. This condition is no longer a part of my life. The forgiving love of God, the truth taught by Jesus Christ, makes me free. Another affirmation, I am free from the past, the mistakes of the past, the results of the mistakes. I know the truth, and the truth sets me free. And now we have the opportunity to affirm what we'd like to see manifest in our life. And I've done this ritual for probably the last over 20 years because I've been involved in Unity for over 20 years, close to 30 years actually. And I just wanted to note that last year I wrote the letter to God, and it's to letter to God or to your higher self, whichever way you want to look at it. And that my ministers from Unity of the Gulf Shores mailed it back to me. And I was just amazed at how everything that I had written in the letter was happening in my life. I didn't anticipate 2020 as it was, but I did ask to have some involvement in Unity, having the opportunity to speak and share, and having some friendships that I had hoped for, and having the opportunity to connect with my family who lives in Fairhope. So what I'd like to invite you to do is we just begin a letter and look for the plan for good that you would like to see evolve in your life. And I'll picture it, use your imagination, and see yourself achieving your dreams. Allow yourself to savor what it would feel like to accomplish that. And so let's just spend a little time in the silence envisioning what that is going to look like. Close your eyes and imagine the best possible version of yourself. And from that point of view, write your letter to God, your letter to your higher self. Is there something you wish to accomplish? What are your goals and dreams? Something you want to do? What is it that you'd like to do and be in 2021? So just take your time and dream and express to God, to your higher self. You might also want to include in your letter your dreams for unity of the Eastern Shore, continued prosperity, continued growth, continued connection. And you might end your letter with something along these lines: that new God thoughts are planted in my consciousness. They fill my life with joyous radiance. We affirm, make firm the pattern of true thoughts that will bring forth the good that we desire. Some of you may still be writing, or perhaps you've completed your letter. I'll give you a little more time. How is everybody doing? Are they ready? Completed your writing? Okay, great. Okay, well, I think generally most spiritual communities collect the letters and mail them back. But since we're on a Zoom call, I invite you to place your letter to God in an envelope and put it in a very special place, perhaps in your Bible or in a spiritual book, or if you have an altar or someplace, and then open it in any time from 6 to 10 months. Some spiritual communities return them like in June, or Some of them return them like around Thanksgiving time. I like to receive it around Thanksgiving time because it always gives me an opportunity to be thankful for all of the blessings. And just with an awareness that when we make these commitments and affirm a new life for ourselves, that it's up to us to continue our trip to Bethlehem and do the work of moving out of our comfort zone to really express the Christ of our consciousness. And it's like Unity's fifth principle, that we have our principles. God is everywhere present, that I have the seed of God within me, and that we have the tools of prayer and affirmation and using our thoughts. And our fifth principle is we know the truths that, and we work the, we become the Christ in our world. That it's not enough just to have the knowledge, but it is to be, to move our feet, to be the Christ in our world. So I'd like to say thank you for allowing me this opportunity to share the Christmas message and this burning bowl, which has been one of my favorite services throughout my time that I've been in Unity. And to wish you a happy new year and seeing many abundant blessings coming to this spiritual community and to each and every one of you. So I love you, I bless you, I appreciate you, and I behold the Christ as you. And I believe we're going to have a song.
Thank you so much, Anne. That was truly a wonderful blessing, and I thank you for your time and for the sincerity. I would like to call your attention to the address on the screen, where if you are able, you can send your love offerings via the postal service. And there's the address, Unity on the Eastern Shore, P.O. Box 776, Fairhope 36533. And I thank you in advance for any offering that you can make, and pray divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I give, all that I have, and all that I receive. And now we'll enjoy another song.
I relax, let go, release and surrender. I relax, let go, release and surrender. I relax, let go, release and surrender. All is well, all is well. I relax, let go, release and surrender. I relax, let go, release and surrender. I relax, let go, release and surrender. All is well, all is well, all is well. And every day I affirm and pray that I'm blessed with everything I have. I release my fear, 'cause it's all so clear. I am
Thank you. And now we'll say together the prayer for protection. Together, the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. And we'll end today with the peace song.